Welcome. Today we're going to explore triangle pose in both its extended form and its revolved form. In Sanskrit, this is Trikonasana. Kona is angle, Trikonasana pose. Asana is pose. All right, let's go. So mountain pose. Let's take a few moments to center by centering over the arches of your feet first, and then lift up away from gravity, up through the back edges of your ears, the top of your head. And let your shoulders relax, lengthening your neck. Extend down through your fingertips and turn your palms gradually forward. Deepen the rhythm of your breath. Remember that your breath helps to create and also hold space for your experience. It also gives you time to move with care. Okay, now the next time you breathe in, float your arms up overhead. Add a soft bend in your knees, fold from your hips, and come down to Uttanasana. So you can have your hands on blocks or the ground. Put a little extra bend in your knees and lengthen your spine, so bring your chest forward. And then hinge at your hips and bow in so your torso rests pretty much on your thighs. And your hands can stay in support of your upper body on blocks, or you can take your hands to your elbows and just add a little motion, a little rocking motion side to side. You're teasing a little bit more length in through the backs of your legs. And let your head be heavy. Allow the base of your skull to move away from the tops of your shoulders. Okay, great. And then bring your hands back under your shoulders or onto blocks. And as you inhale, come up to a halfway lift to give yourself some space. And as you exhale, step your right foot back, a long stride, and then bring your right knee down to the mat. You can also place a soft block underneath your knee. Press down through your left foot, lift your upper body, and bring your arms up. So allow your pelvis to settle. Steady your breath. We're going to take about 5 slow breaths. One more inhale. When you exhale, lean forward and bring your hands down. Now walk your hands back and bring your left heel as far forward as you need to stretch out the back of your leg. And now with your hands underneath your shoulders, breathe in to lengthen your spine and roll your left hip back. And as you exhale, bow towards your left leg. We're going to keep moving, so an inhale to lengthen out again. And an exhale to bow right to the bottom of your breath. 2 more times, an inhale. And an exhale. 1 more time, breathing in. Right, and breathe out. Okay, inhale to lengthen up. Begin to bend your left knee. As you exhale, walk your hands down, back into the lunge. We'll take this back to downward facing dog. So down dog is a wonderful back body lengthener, and you can increase that a little by pedaling your heels towards the ground. Keep a firm grip on your mat through the pads of your fingers. And if you're moving, just start to come back towards stillness little by little. Okay, now move forward on your inhale, forward to plank pose. Your knees can be lifted or bring them down to the mat. We're going to pause here for a couple more breaths. Without moving your legs, try to hug your inner thighs in towards each other. Gently lift up through your pelvic floor and draw your belly button towards your spine. And then carry your shoulders away from your ears so your neck is as long as it can be. Now we're looking for the next exhale. When that comes, breathe out slowly and bend your elbows. Come to lie down on your belly. Untuck your toes. Straighten out your legs, bring your elbows wide and your palms flat to the ground. As you inhale, push down through your pelvis, lift up through your chest. As you exhale, stay here, but draw your belly button towards your spine. As you inhale, elevate your elbows and palms. And exhale, try to roll your shoulders away from your ears. And then let's stay for a few more breaths. Just try to keep the breath moving. So we're toning our core and our back muscles. One more breath in. And then soften down, bring your palms by your ribs, curl your toes under, and press back up, downward facing dog. Okay. As you meet down dog, lift your left leg with an inhale. Step your left foot forward, up in between your hands, and then bring your right knee down to the mat. Now lift your right toes and move your right toes towards the left side of your mat. So they're going behind your other leg. And then lift your upper body, bring your left elbow onto your left thigh and your right hand up to your right hip. So you're beginning to turn towards the right side of your mat. If you have room to bring your left heel forward a little more, go ahead and then reposition your left knee over your left heel. Roll your left hip back so you're using your left glute strength, and then draw the center of your chest up so your torso is really turned towards the side. Roll your bottom shoulder away from your ear and then reach your right arm wide. So you're in fact reaching your right fingertips away from your left shoulder in a long line. Continue to push down through your left foot firmly. If you feel comfortable, you can hover your left elbow or even take your left arm to the inside of your left leg and reach down towards your left heel. Keep lifting from your belly button towards your spine so your core is supported. And your gaze can be sideways or turned up towards your right hand. Bring your left elbow back to your left thigh, your right hand to your right hip, and then straighten out your left leg and come upright. Spin your heel back so your foot is lined up with the front edge of your mat, like a half straddle, and then lean sideways down the long side of your mat. So we're looking for some inner thigh stretch up your left leg. Your left hand can be on the ground or on a block, and then bring your right hand up to your right hip. Try to draw your sitting bones back so your lower back is long, the crown of your head forward, and then turn towards the back of your mat so your right shoulder elevates, and your right hand can stay at your right hip or reach your right fingertips up, just as high as they can comfortably go. Try to draw your right shoulder blade down towards your spine. And just notice how much effort there is in your left hand, so that's helping to turn the lower side of your rib cage underneath you. And still find room for breathing, always. After the next big inhale, look down, lower your right hand. Put a little bend in your left knee, turn your left foot forward, walk your hands around to the front of your mat. You may need to pull your heel in a little bit and bring your right toes behind your right knee. So we're coming back up to a runner's lunge. Walk your hands ahead of your left foot and step your right foot forward, a halfway lift as you arrive. A forward fold as you breathe out. Okay, a couple extra breaths. So you could pedal out your knees if you like. You could take your hands to your elbows. Try to make the pose somewhat relaxed. So each time you breathe out, you're working with gravity. If there's anything going on in your lower back, then you really will want to find more support by bending your knees more or keeping your hands on something firm. Okay. Now, the next time you breathe in, take your hands under your shoulders, lengthen your chest forward, and when you breathe out, step your left foot back, a long lunge stride, and bring your left knee down to the mat. Push down through your right foot and lift your upper body. Here we arrive in a low lunge where we're staying again for a few breaths. So keep your right foot firm, your right hip drawn back, your left hip moving forward. Your shoulder blades settle down your back and a lift up through the back of your neck. Slow and steady breathing. It's your chance to open up your breath to a nice deep rhythm. One more big inhale, just take your time. When you breathe out, lean forward, take your hands under your shoulders, blocks or the ground, and then move your hips back. Perhaps edge your right heel forward if you need to find the stretch. Press down through your right heel, flex your right foot. As you inhale, lengthen your chest forward, roll your right hip back, and when you exhale, bow in towards your right leg. We'll keep moving. Inhale to lengthen. A careful exhale to bow. Inhale again. We'll move through 2 more. And an exhale. Inhale. Okay, 1 more time. And an exhale. Right, so as you inhale, lift up again. Begin to bend your right knee. Walk forward on the exhale. Bring your hands right to the mat so you can step back to downward facing dog. Okay. Moving on from down dog with an inhale, roll forward into plank. Your knees again can be up or down. Hug your inner thighs towards each other. Lift up through your pelvic floor and your belly button lifts towards your spine. Then through your upper body, roll your shoulders back so your shoulder blades are set firmly onto the back of your rib cage. Find the top of your next inhale, so breathe in deep. As you exhale, bend your elbows and lower down. We'll do just the same thing. So untuck your toes, straight legs, elbows wide, palms flat. Push down to lift up through your chest. As you exhale, draw your belly button up towards your spine. Inhale, lift your elbows and palms. Just remember on the exhale, maybe there's room to roll your shoulders back. And then keep breathing, a couple more breaths. Let's make it 3. Is playing handsy a thing? It's like playing handsy. Okay, back to yoga. And then bring your palms by your ribs, curl your toes under. Downward facing dog. From down dog, raise your right leg up. Step your right foot forward, bring it in between your hands. Set your left knee down to the mat, maybe a block. Lift your left foot, bring your left foot towards the right side of your mat. Bring your toes down. And then lift your upper body, bring your right elbow to your right thigh, left hand to your left hip, and turn towards the long left side of your mat. Try to keep your right kneecap facing forward and tuck your right hip underneath you. And maybe walk your right foot forward a little if it feels you need more space. Okay, so turn your chest sideways as best as you can. Roll both of your shoulders back and then set your left fingertips or reach your left fingertips wide away from your right shoulder. And your right elbow can stay just as it is, or you could lighten it or lift it and stretch your right fingertips in the direction of your right heel. So make sure you're still breathing. And if you feel you have space in your neck to take a turn, it's a turn up towards your left hand. Next time you breathe out, bring your elbow down, your left hand down too, turn towards or actually lift your upper body. Okay, spin your right heel back, and so your leg gets straighter, parallel to the front of your mat. Lean your upper body towards the long left side of your mat, and then draw your sitting bones back. So what you're doing there is actually tipping your pelvis forward a little more, and then lengthen the crown of your head forward too. Okay, now your right hand comes underneath your chest. Press down, bring your left hand up to your left hip, and turn towards the back of your mat. Okay, try to support your lower back, lift from your belly button towards your spine. Keep your neck long. If there's room in your left shoulder to reach up through your left fingertips, no, that doesn't need to be right up to the ceiling. It could be more of an angle to the back of your mat. Try to draw your shoulder blade down towards your spine. And on an exhale, look down, bring your left hand down, put a little bend into your right knee. Walk your hands around each side of your right foot, tuck your left toes, lift your left knee up, preparing to step forward. So come up to the front of your mat into a halfway lift. As you exhale, step your right foot back, walk your hands back for a moment, and then spin your right heel flat to the ground. Anchor your left knee over your left heel. Push down through your left foot, lift up, warrior two, circle your arms out open into a T. I just did a little adjustment with my left foot. I heel-toed it in towards the middle of the mat, so if that feels more stable for you, then go ahead. Keep your left knee facing forward, and maybe your gaze turned over your left hand.
Hug your heels in towards each other, but try to distance your fingertips away from each other. It's another pose where your breath can be deep, kind of like our low lunge. You're pretty much upright through your upper body. Your breath finds a deep rhythm. Let's take one more slow breath like this. When your exhale is done, bring your right hand to your right hip, turn your gaze towards the long side of your mat again, and then straighten your left leg. Turn your right big toe about an inch ahead of your right heel, and your hips, turn them about an inch towards the front of your mat too. And then pull your hips back towards your right hand, but reach your left fingertips off the front of your mat. Try to keep your spine long, and then bring your left hand down. So that can be the back of your hand to your inner thigh, inner calf, or maybe the block underneath your shoulder, maybe the ground underneath your shoulder. And then open up through your right arm. So you're trying to reach your right fingertips again away from your left shoulder. And your gaze can be sideways, or if your neck is okay to do so, look up over or towards your right hand. Keep hugging your feet towards each other. Roll your left hip back. Lift up gently through your pelvic floor. Again, your belly button towards your spine. Make sure your breath is as deep as it can be with all the support from your foundation. Trikonasana. Okay. Now look down. Bring your right hand to your right hip. Bend your left knee. Then move your hands both around your left foot. Step back into downward facing dog. I'm going to leave this one up to you. If you'd like to move through what you know to be a vinyasa, you're welcome to. You can also pause in down dog or child's pose. If you're wondering what the vinyasa is, it's to breathe in and come forward to plank. And exhale to bend your elbows and lower to the ground. This time just simply cobra. Your hands can stay as they are. And downward facing dog. And if you're working in child's pose, just as you're ready, come back up to downward facing dog. Okay, now with an inhale, lift your left foot up. And with an exhale, step your left foot towards your left hand. Spin your right heel to the ground, not quite as wide as Warrior Two, and then grab a block if you have one. We're going to take it up with us. Lift your upper body. If you don't have a block, I'll just mention some things on the way in. Okay, now make your stride just a little bit shorter than a full lunge stride. It's about a leg length long, and turn your hips towards the front of your mat. Take the block into your right hand. The longest height is a good place to begin. Your left hand to your left hip. Now as you breathe in, lift up through your right arm. As you breathe out, bend your left knee. So this may be a little confusing, but we're going to start this way. Push down, lift up through the center of your chest. Try to keep your spine nice and long. We're just giving a little bit of extra warmth to our left hamstrings, which we're going to stretch out in a minute as we meet the cousin of triangle pose, revolved triangle pose. So try to hug your left heel back, and that activates your hamstrings a little bit more. By activating your hamstrings and warming them up, when we release and stretch them, they're just going to be a little bit more pliable and ready to do that. Okay, great. Now straighten out your left leg. It doesn't have to be all the way straight, just straighter than it was, and lean forward by hinging at your hips. Your right hand, if you don't have a block, can come to your left thigh, left shin. If you're working with a block, the block can go underneath your right shoulder or to the outer edge of your left foot. Now try to roll your left hip back again. Hug your right inner thigh forward so you're gripping your mat, and then turn your torso towards the left. Keep your belly button lifted towards your spine as we're twisting. We want to support it. Roll your shoulders away from your ears. Try to keep your neck long too. If there's space in your left shoulder to reach up, then you're welcome to reach up. Make sure that there's still room to breathe in the pose. I know my breath gets a little shaky with so much effort, but just do your best to work through those little bumps in the road. Okay, one more breath in. And as you breathe out, look down, bend your left knee, walk your hands forward, step your right foot forward, a halfway lift, and then a forward fold. Okay. As you inhale, a halfway lift again. This time, step your left foot back, heading to warrior two. So walk your hands back, spin your left heel flat, and push down for your right foot. Lift your upper body and turn towards the long left side of your mat. Maybe you extend your stride a little bit, maybe your right toe or right foot heel toes in towards the middle of your mat. Keep your right knee turned forward. Open your arms out wide in a T. And then, if you wish, if your neck's good for it, then turn your gaze over your right hand. Hug your feet in, but extend your fingertips out. Find your breath. Make it as slow as you can. The fewer breaths you can take in a pose within reason, and the less time it can seem to take while you're in a pose. After you've breathed out next time, no rush, bring your left hand to your left hip, stretch out your right leg, and then turn your left big toe slightly ahead of your left heel. Your hips likewise turn forward about an inch, and then pull your left hip back into your left hand and reach towards the front of your mat through your right hand. Try to keep your spine long, lower belly drawn back. Bring your right hand down, so that could be the back of your hand to your inner thigh, inner calf, perhaps a block, perhaps the ground. Try to keep as much length in your spine as you can, so holding that length from the bottom, hug your right hip back, and from the top, reach out through the top of your head. And then open your left arm wide, and your gaze can be sideways or turned up towards your left hand. And while you maintain the pose, do keep breathing deeply, but also resolve the strength of your foundation by hugging your feet in. Keep your right hip rolled back and your spine long. Bring your left hand to your left hip. Look down, bend your right knee. Bring your hands down around your right foot. We're coming back to down dog, so step your right foot back. Maybe you pedal out down dog a couple times. Maybe you come forward to plank in a vinyasa. Maybe you set your knees to the mat and come down into child's pose. So up to you, this is time to reset. So if you're in child's pose, and then make your way back up to down dog. Float your right leg up with an inhale. Step your right foot forward, up to your right hand. And then make your stride just a little bit shorter and spin your left heel to the ground. Grab a block, come upright, and then straighten out your right leg just for a moment. Okay, so your left foot, you want to turn forward at least 45 degrees. Your hips angle towards the front of your mat. This stride feels a little long for me, so I'm going to go for a little shorter stride, about a leg length. Take your block into the left hand and your right hand to your right hip. Hug your hips in towards each other, or your thighs in towards each other, and raise your left arm. Bend your right knee. So we're taking a few breaths here in this mini warrior one. To make it just a little more juicy, hug your right heel back. Hug the blade of your left foot forward, gripping your mat so you can stay long through your spine. Engaging your hamstrings. You can even try to check that, yep, they are working. Okay, one more breath. And then when you breathe in, straighten out your right leg. Keep your right hip held back. Exhale to fold at your hips. So where does your left hand go? It can go to your thigh, your right shin. It can come down onto a block, placing that underneath your shoulder or to your outer right foot. So push your left hand down, keep your spine long, and then turn your torso towards the right. Lift from your belly button towards your spine. This twist needs that extra support. Draw your shoulder blades down your back so your neck has more space. And then if you wish, raise your right arm. Your gaze can be turned as your chest is, or a little further, look up to the right. Move your breath through the bumps. Then bring your right hand to your right hip, look down, bend your right knee, set your hands evenly to the ground. We're gonna step this one back, so take yourself back to down dog. Oh, and a clearing breath here. Slow inhale, long exhale. Okay. So bring your knees down to the mat and slide yourself onto your seat. Bring your legs out ahead of you. And we're gonna just transition down onto our back. So roll your way down. As you meet your mat, bend your knees, walk your heels in towards your sitting bones. Check that your feet feel about hip width distance apart. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. Okay, press down through the backs of your upper arms, down through your feet, and then lift your hips away from the ground. So we're moving into bridge pose. So keep your thighs parallel to each other. That means keeping the balls of your feet firm to the mat. And as you press down through the backs of your arms, maybe there's room to lift up through the back of your rib cage, drawing your breastbone, your sternum closer to your chin. Your arms can stay bent like this, or you could straighten them out, lay them to the ground, and tuck your shoulder blades underneath you a little further. And if your hands come close, feel free to interlace your fingers. Keep your breath big and let your breath rise up towards your belly. Fall down towards your chest. And separate your hands. Roll down through your spine. Then reach your arms out wider. So you press down through your feet, lift your hips up, take your hips an inch or two to the left. Lift your feet away from the ground, cross your right leg over your left leg, and then slowly, draw your knees down towards the right. So we often take the other leg on top, but by having your right thigh over your left, you're keeping your left hip aligned over your right hip, because sometimes it'll tip in towards the side of your rib cage. So your right hand can also come down and rest on your legs, or keep it wide. Don't worry if your left shoulders become elevated, but if it doesn't feel great to have your arm extended this way, then you can also take your left hand to your left hip. And your gaze could still be up towards the ceiling or turn towards the left. Let's take a couple deep breaths. Turn your gaze back up, open your arms wide, unravel your legs, lift your legs back up. They can separate on the way up. And then bring your feet down and lift your hips up, carry your hips slightly over to the right this time. And then lift your feet, cross your left thigh over your right. And you can hook your feet if you like. Okay, draw your lower belly back and then move your knees down towards the left. And as your knees come down, if you wish, take your left hand onto your legs if they need a little more gravity. And then your right arm, just see how it's doing. If it feels overextended, then you can take your hand onto your hip. And your gaze, again, can stay at the ceiling or turn this time towards the right. Take about 4 breaths on this side. Gaze is turned, look up to the ceiling and press down through your arms, unravel your legs, lift your legs back up and bring your feet down. Okay, move your hips into the middle of your mat, happy baby pose. So bring your knees in towards your chest, separate your knees, lift your feet up and then reach up through the insides of your legs. It could be your calves or your ankles or the outer edges of your feet, and use your upper back strength and your arm strength to draw your thighs down. So a little inner thigh stretch. You can rock a bit side to side if you like to. And then release your feet. Let's head to Shavasana, a well-deserved rest. So extend your legs out. Take up some space. Let your arms open up too. Your shoulders are crowding the back of your neck. Then just tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. Give yourself some space. Let's take a deep breath to get into Shavasana. So inhale slowly. Open your mouth, exhale. And set your breath adrift. Movement into your hands, into your feet. With an inhale, stretch your hands off the end of your mat, your feet off the other. And exhale to release and soften. Bend your knees, place your feet flat to the mat, move your hips a little off to the left, and then roll over to your right side. And let's come up to sit. Make your way up. Any comfortable seat, maybe a little height underneath your hips. Okay. So as you settle, bring your palms together to heart center. Acknowledge your effort, your mental attention, the work of your body, quality of your breath. Thank you for your practice. Namaste. Welcome. Today,